we're so resilient, but we're so fragile, and we carry these marks in our armor that like affect us a lot of us for the rest of our lives. I love my ego. I love my little buddy. You know what I mean? Part of my mental health is like not hating myself, any part of myself. If you're gonna juggle all those balls, you need to be also willing to accept you're gonna drop a few. There seems to be this resistance to evolution. Historically, men do it this way, or like prehistorically, men do this. I'm like, I'm not prehistoric, dude. Like,
but challenging the idea rather than challenging the person. It's such a little thing, but it's such a powerful skill.
And how boring does the world get if we already know everything?
Hey, my friend, welcome back to the Don't Change Much podcast. My name is Mike Cameron, and this week it's just me and Trevor. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure we were actually going to release this one, but we riffed a little bit. We went a little bit sideways. We disagreed a little bit, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's all about. Hey, Trevor?
Yeah, the musings of a couple of old guys. Yeah. You know, I'm here to pontificate as well and like look at my own things, but is the end goal to get people caught up to each other? Like, or do we accept that some people just aren't going to get there and we need to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of am of the mind of both things can be true. There can be this, boundary piece, which is, this is unacceptable in my life. This is unacceptable behavior. This is unacceptable. At the same time, I can still hold space to listen to other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, even if they're fucking ridiculous. To your point, Trevor, like some of them are absolutely ridiculous. But again, we don't move the needle if all we do is say your opinion isn't valid. It's interesting for me because I get that sometimes because I hold space, I think, a lot more than some would. And so sometimes I might get somebody that's more on your side of the fence, Trevor, that comes and gives me shit because you shouldn't entertain that. You shouldn't tolerate. It's like, no, I'm not tolerating it. But the reality is, if I don't create space to listen to that, then, Gene's just going to take that opinion and bury it, and it's still going to be there. It's not going to change. And that potentially becomes even more problematic because it goes underground.
Totally. But I also look at the limitations of my own self, and believe me, I'm a guy that thinks I can fix the world. And if you listen to me, everything is going to be okay. But I also, I go through this fight with myself where I'm like, is this my job? Is this my responsibility? I think we all share a responsibility, but I think right now, and this is my resistance, is I feel like that's listing people out sometimes is almost validating or giving too much airtime to certain things. It's here, let's talk about immigration, just a slight thing, because all this stuff affects my mental health. It's if you want to disagree, if you have challenges with immigration in our country, I might agree with you, and we might have different opinion over whether we need how many immigrants we need every year and how many is too many. But if your problem is immigrants, well, that's a different thing. That's not even a slight nuance. Now you're hating on people, and why wouldn't people want to come to our country? Why wouldn't they? It's a beautiful country to be in. And the countries they're coming from are often war-torn, are filled with dictators and all kinds of shit that we wouldn't want to live in. Why would you why would you hate the people? And so this is one of those things is as a Canadian, as a civilized human being, I'm not prejudiced and racist against people. If that's your position, that you hate people from a certain country or with a certain skin color, I'm not the guy that's going to honor that, respect that conversation. So I'm open to being disagreed with. I fully am, but I just find sometimes in order to honor and respect those conversations, I'm being asked to really dumb it down. And you know what I mean? And we're seeing an empowered, regressive concepts of tribalism. We're seeing what it's doing in the States because they've got their leader in charge right now. And I don't
Mhm,
know. And so I'm not going to get into politics, but I'm just saying, like,
mhm, mhm.
on some subjects, we need to, I think as a country, we need to say, this is where we're at as a country, and as a people. And when it comes to mental health, same thing. Like, if you don't believe that mental health is a thing, like, I'm sorry. Um, there's no, like, if you want to ask me why it's important, I'm here to have that conversation. I'm not by no means a teacher, but if you're going to tell me men are weak because they speak about their feelings, well, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Like, objectively, uh, this is the subjective thing anymore.
I don't know about respecting their
Mm,
opinion, so you use the word respect.
yeah,
There still needs to be accountability 100%.
totally.
Um, I don't know that we have a responsibility for people that have harmful beliefs.
Mm,
I believe I personally have a responsibility too. And then back to the other piece you touched on is for your own mental health, for your own safety, you have to set boundaries. And I think that is incredibly important. So, first and foremost, yes,
yeah.
set those boundaries as to what you're capable of entertaining because you're right. Like if you
Yeah.
don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to have those conversations, then absolutely there's nothing wrong with saying, "Look, dude,
Yeah.
not interested in having those conversations."
And just to be clear, like, I'm not talking about supporting somebody, and I know you're not either. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
like, if you come to me and you're a complete racist, like, hands down, and you're having challenges with your mental health and you need somebody to listen to, I'll listen to you. I got your back, right?
Yeah.
It's where, where I see right now is this is affecting my mental health sometimes, and because it gets me angry, man, um and sad, like just really feeling disappointed sometimes. Um, there's a certain segment of the population that are coming out now and like hacking on a very vulnerable community, one that's like been put front and center by what's going on in the States. He seems to be getting vilified all the time. It's heartbreaking. So it's like, you want to defend people that are coming from equity deserving groups and like deserve their own identity and freedom and safety, man. And it's on blast and it's just hard to see. And I will pick that. I will take on that challenge every time to kind of create that safe place. But a real world example of how it comes back to help me is though, like, let's look at the measles outbreak. Let's talk about health in Alberta. My daughter works in a hospital. My granddaughter comes into the world. Alberta has decided they don't like vaccines. They're going to go against science. We see a massive measles outbreak in that province. And you think, well, that's good for them. If they don't want their vaccine, they'll get it. Well, my young granddaughter comes into the world. She can't have her vaccine until she's like 6 to 8 months old, around there.
Right.
So I got 8 months that my daughter is walking on eggshells in the community, trying to avoid her new daughter, my granddaughter, getting measles because a certain portion of the demographic decided all of a sudden that with no evidence that the measles vaccine is over.
Yeah.
And then I have people trying to tell me why that's a good thing. And I'm like, we're not playing on this. We're not playing on the same level right now. Like, I believe in science and you don't. So like there's a big break in our discussion already, right? So I don't know how to get you there because I can show you the numbers and you refute them. I can show you the science and you're going to say no. But I do have a granddaughter that's trying to like basically get through a very challenging first 6 to 8 months of life now with this added stressor. So it's
Yeah,
tough.
no question, and again, I mean, I do think there is room for accountability and drawing
Yeah.
lines and having conversations with our elected officials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just not ready to write off that segment of the population because there is always going to be some version of that segment. So for me, it comes
Yeah.
back to how do we get curious about that? Like, I really legitimately don't understand how you believe that. And
Yeah.
you're right about maybe not giving sort of airtime or amplifying the messages.
Mm.
But yeah, my question is, how can we get curious about, what is your need that's not being met that has you believe these things or push in this direction or that direction?
Fair enough.
Um, and trying to understand that piece, because I always look at where can I be a lighthouse, understanding that I can never be the tugboat, that I can shine the light, I can hold the torch, I can hold the space, but I can't steer the ship. And if they're going to crash into the rocks, I'm going to do everything I can to protect the lighthouse, the rocks, so the community that the lighthouse is on. So if that ship does go into the rocks, then I've done what I can to protect the community.
Yeah.
But understanding that, yeah, to your point, like I don't have I'm not responsible for that ship crashing, but as the
Yeah.
lighthouse, I have a responsibility to flash my lights and say, hey,
Mm.
there's a rock here.
One of the things I, in order to preserve my sanity is just like, do not engage. So if I'm at, like, I've been at family dinner, or actually I was at a volunteer event, and somebody at a table got into some stuff, and I just was like, respectfully, I can't engage in this conversation in a way that I would be proud of myself. So let's just talk about something else.
And I do think that's important as well, is to understand that sometimes it is okay to walk away. You know, I often get asked that question, again, coming back to sort of supporting somebody with mental
Yeah.
health issues. You've got a loved one and you've done all the things you can, but they still continue to drive themselves into the freaking rocks, and they're
Mm.
starting to take down the lighthouse with them. Yeah, at
Yeah.
some point you've got to set those firm boundaries and just say, I cannot entertain this
Mm.
conversation anymore for the sake of my own well-being.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking to do when I'm at my best, I'm able to hold that space for a different belief system, but have very clear boundaries and
Yeah.
accountability. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot in leadership conversations, because
Mm.
we talk about compassionate and empathetic leadership, but that absolutely does not mean no boundaries and no accountability, because compassion
Yeah.
and empathy with no boundaries and accountability is a fucking recipe for disaster.
Right.
So how do you do that?
Well, for me, as from a leadership standpoint, and from what I've learned, like doing peer support and stuff like that, is like, I don't need to agree with you. Like, it's none of my business what you feel or believe from the point of view of the mission or what we're doing. Now, if we are going to run against each other for lead, or like something that has something to do with the topic we disagree on, then it becomes front and center. But I always just remind myself, like, what is the task at hand? Why are we engaging with each other? Um, does their belief have anything to do with mine? Right. Um, if we're going to run a daycare together, and uh, this person is fundamentally supporting some of the shit we're seeing happening down in the States, that might be a problem, right? But um, if we've got to build this house and you hate immigrants, let's just say a challenging thing, and I'm on the other side of that. I love culture. I love people. Um, that doesn't affect our ability to build this house together. So, and we're probably, if we can't talk about things rationally and calmly and without anger, then we probably shouldn't be talking about it at all. And so I'll just, I'll be like, are we able, if somebody wanted to get into it, I would set the stage. Are we able to talk about this calmly and like, uh, and not hate each other doing it? Is this just an exchange of different opinions or ideas? Or is this personal? Because if it's personal, I'm not going to take that right now. Like, I'm not into it. Because again, it's nothing personal. Like, a difference of opinion shouldn't be personal.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, just from a communication standpoint, as men learning to attack the idea versus attacking the
Yeah,
person, or challenge.
exactly.
Maybe attack isn't the right word, because that's a little more
Right.
aggressive than sounds friendly, but
Yeah.
challenging the idea rather than challenging the person.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, like, when I think of communication, like, that is such a big, it's such a little thing,
Yeah.
but it's such a powerful skill.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, because it helps keep your ego out of it. And this is not what we're seeing demonstrated in media these days. Even the debates that I see, it's not even just the language. If you just listen to the tone, they've become so personal feeling. Like, this is my whole identity I'm arguing with you, and this is my whole identity. Like everything I believe is so concrete, and if I don't know this, I don't know who I am. Like if this isn't actually the truth,
Yes.
I don't know who I am, and that's what it sounds like. And the language is very attack focused, and like I'm always like, how do we get back to like again where we separate our identity from the opinion or idea? You know, like was I don't know who said it, but it is a famous saying. Like my most strongly hold beliefs and opinions are the ones I need to challenge the most and most often, right? Like I should have an attachment to them because I believe them, but it shouldn't be so much that I'm not willing to look at them. And I guess, the act of questioning our own beliefs is what makes them stronger, right? Like
Totally.
same like every person I know that's super religious and like I see a genuine like investment in their religious beliefs. They love being challenged. They love that you challenge them because it's an opportunity to recommit every time. I think the people that become enraged are these people that kind of hold these religious beliefs for very shallow reasons. I don't want to
Yeah.
judge, but like I know some very like committed religious people and I respect the hell out of their commitment, but they love the opportunity to talk and debate this stuff because in the end, if they despite all that, it returns them back to believing. Well, it strengthens their own resolve.
Well, that's the thing. One of two things is gonna happen. Either
Yeah.
you're gonna crumble your belief
Yeah.
or you're gonna strengthen it. And either way,
Totally.
it's a good thing because if you can find enough evidence that crumbles your belief, well, whew, thank God I didn't hang on to that for too long.
Yeah.
Or the flip side of that is now my faith in whatever that belief is even stronger. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Mark Andreessen was cited with it was more a software thing, but this one is a mantra I hold on to, and that's strong opinions loosely held.
Yes. Yes.
So I have very strong beliefs, very strong opinions, but
Oh,
I hang on to them loosely. I'm willing to challenge them. I actually have fun challenging
yeah.
them, and I'm open to changing my mind.
And how boring does the world get if we already know everything, right? Like that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like the unknowns are the richness of life. And I used to be very different than that, right? Like I've really, one of the reasons life wasn't of value to me and wasn't rewarding for me is because I thought I knew everything and it sucked. You know,
Right.
so it's like and that's exaggeration, but just to make a point, but like now I see the joy in life is the unknowns or the gift it is to be able, like, as a human being, our sentience and our ability to like pontificate and reflect on our life and our circumstances and our place in the world. Like, this is the gift. No other species, I think, on the planet has that ability. And none that we've proven, I don't think. To consider our self awareness, like to consider our place in the universe. I don't know. Maybe dolphins can, but I don't think it's been proven. Right? I don't know. I don't know. Pigs are pretty smart, but
Yeah, I don't know, but it's fun in these interviews that we get to do with these men or people in the men's health space to listen to this is where I started and this is where I am today. It's really neat to see the evolution. And to your point, I mean, I think life is absolutely boring if we're not evolving and growing and changing. And even if that is, hardening your resolve in some areas and softening them in others.
mhm. I think one of the things I've learned though too, and especially is admitting I'm wrong or like I was wrong or changing my opinion is way easier to do as soon as I notice it. Like
Yes.
the more I hang on to it and the more I like defend it, the harder it gets to do. Like I become more and more entrenched. And I can feel myself doing it. Like I know when I'm doing it and I'm like, I've been presented new information, Trevor. Like, and so like learning the practice of being like, just immediately, like, I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong. I did it today actually with my students. And this is another lesson I've learned in life is like, look at the way you view the word and then apply a world and apply it to myself. So like on vulnerability, every time I've ever seen somebody on a stage or in a moment where they get super vulnerable, I'm always like super impressed by it. I'm like, oh man, like the courage and I know the guts it takes. But then I look at myself and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be, I don't want to be a little girl about things, not to gender it, but you know what I mean? Like that thought that goes through your mind. It's the same when like whenever I witness somebody like stop themselves and say, actually, I was wrong yesterday, or that thing I said yesterday, I was wrong. I have new information now. and I'm really looking at that opinion that I shared, and I'm actually starting to see a lot of holes in it. I'm always super amazed and impressed, right?
Yeah.
And so I look back at myself like, why was I so ashamed or like scared to like change my opinion or my idea of something? Again, this I look at the world with a healthier lens. Like I let people off the hook. I give them grace. I allow them to have all this stuff. And like, I just need to apply that to myself too and allow myself to step into all that same courage, grace, and strength that I allow everybody else to have around me.
Yeah, and I think, part of that comes back to the identity piece that you touched on before. A man like me would X, Y, and Z, so then you double down regardless.
Totally.
And
Totally.
I think that's where the masculinity piece comes into play because
Totally.
a man would X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when we start to get challenged on these, and especially now in this day and age, when we are starting to challenge maybe, we don't need to be the hunters, gatherers,
No.
builders of things exclusively anymore. So what does that mean to my identity? And
Yeah.
that's where I think we run into a lot of challenges on the gender side of the equation when we're talking about masculinity, because okay, well, if it's evolving and I don't know what that evolution is, I'm just going to grab firmly onto the shit that used to be because I know what that
Right?
is and that's more comfortable.
That's a strange thing too, because I hear a lot of it in a certain segment of like the men's movement. There seems to be this resistance to evolution. Like we like, no, that's historically men do it this way, or like we're
Yeah.
prehistorically men do this. I'm like, I'm not prehistoric, dude. Like, these diets and stuff too. We come up like the paleo diet. I'm like, I feel like some stuff's changed inside me over the last 10,000 years, whatever it is. I know I'm not accurate. Please,
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
comment. I'm just throwing numbers out there for a point. It's like we have evolved. Even in my lifetime, I have evolved. I've changed. I'm not the same person I was when I was 20. Why am I hanging on to those opinions? I'm not the same guy I was when I was 35. I had a massive breakthrough when I landed in a treatment center in 2018. Like, I've changed, and that's necessary to make it in this world. And so, why are we continuing to try and like, why would I promote my dad's? He grew up on a prairie farm with a father that went through the trauma of the Second World War. Um, and like, that's just not the world we live in. Things changed. We are very privileged. We have a lot of comforts that my grandfather didn't have, right? And so, this is the world I live in now.
But I don't even think you need to go back a generation to see that.
Yeah.
I had a memory pop up from my 56th birthday where I was out
Okay.
on a trail run. I filmed a little thing and I talked exactly about this. The things that worked for me in my 20s and 30s
Mm.
don't serve me in my 50s.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe that's hard if you're in your 20s and 30s right now to sort of wrap your head around. But I could almost guarantee you anybody in their 40s and 50s will tell you that the things that worked for them in their 20s
Yeah.
probably doesn't work anymore. So you kind of have to evolve. And maybe that's not
Yeah.
fair. Maybe some folks are still hanging on to what worked for them in their 20s. But
That's a choice. I don't know. Like you can. I mean, as far as anybody listening to this podcast, you can do anything you want. Like we, I don't pretend to have the answers. I just have the answers that work for me. Like you can hang on to what you were doing when you're 12 years old. What you just said is very, very in line with how I describe my ego. And like, there's parts of my life where people have asked me to throw my ego out, and I'm like, um, where I've landed now, what works for me now is like accepting that my ego is a part of me and it is the safety mechanism, the safety system that I have to protect me. Its purpose is to protect me. It just quit learning when I was 20. It quit updating when I was 12 years old, right? Like my ego is the safety system that quit learning when I was 12 years old. So to employ it now in my life, it doesn't work. It makes me guarded. It makes me shut down. It makes me lash out. It makes me attack people. It makes me not admit when I'm wrong. It makes me very stubborn, but it's there to protect me. That's what I love my ego. I love my little buddy. You know what I mean? I have no way of updating it. So I have a new system in place But there's like part of my mental health and place in my world is like not hating myself, any part of myself. What you said just reminded me of that part. Like, yeah, there's these things we learn when we were kids and young, and we experience a set amount of trauma. Every child does. Every child, we some engage. We're so fragile, right? Like we're so resilient, but we're so fragile, and we carry these marks in our armor, that like affect us a lot of us for the rest of our lives. For me, anyways, a lot of the patterns in my life that I was living in were the result of like my ego, like where it got locked in, these protectionism. I felt because of the way I was treated by the people around me, I was never going to be treated well, or I wouldn't have people around me that love me. I would never have friends. And so I get very protective
So
of
yeah,
like, if I act in a way that people don't like me, then I will lose my friends. I'll lose what I have. So, like I get married to these patterns of behavior to try and
yeah,
keep people happy or keep me protected. And that's just not the case. I ended up feeling very unseen and like a shell of a human that like didn't have any real identity at all. And so it's interesting, I think the breakthrough for me was like accepting that like I just have to be myself. And I don't have to judge people. I don't have to judge myself. I don't have to be hateful to people. I don't have to be hateful to myself. I find the greatest fulfillment in life when I'm loving the world, like trying to give love to people around me and loving myself. Right. And,
yeah. One of
yeah,
my favorite coaching questions is what is this keeping you safe from? So
mm,
that you can identify that, and then rather than even fighting it, and this was one of the things we talked about in a group session I did recently, was, one of the guys named his little voice and, he'd tell him to fuck off. But
yeah,
again, the problem with that is they don't fuck off. They're still there. They're still going to be there. So the question becomes, where can you welcome them? Where can you welcome that part? Feel that thing that it's protecting you from so that you don't need protection from it anymore, and
wow,
move that forward. And that's I just wrote a piece on overwhelm about that, because so often we try and overwhelm as an example, we
yeah,
try and fight the overwhelm. We try and put all the things in place, the Eisenhower matrix, prioritization, all these things so that we can fight the overwhelm. But the reality is there is no way we're going to completely get rid of overwhelm.
yeah,
So understanding that we have to accept that, feel that,
yeah,
rather than try and fight it, because when we try and fight it and we can't solve it, then we start this spiral because we judge ourselves because we're not man enough to solve the overwhelm.
yeah,
So, then the question becomes, how do we accept that? And then, out of the head and into the body, where do I feel that there so that I can catch the story that's perpetuating that feeling of overwhelm? And then, the last piece is that, what is this feeling trying to teach me that I have yet to learn? And leaning into that.
strongly agree. And for me, like I treat it just like feelings, like that ego moment or that voice in the back of my head. I don't tell it to fuck off. I'm a
Yeah.
little bit more patient and loving, right? Like I'm loving. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey buddy, I hear you. I hear what you have to say, and we're gonna do things a bit different. And for me, my relationship with overwhelm, what transformed it for me is acknowledging that for me, that feeling of being overwhelmed is directly attached to my sense of imminent failure. So
Mm. Right.
when I feel like I'm doing well and I'm good and failure's a long way away, I'm good. But when things get more intense and I feel like things are getting beyond my control, uh, I feel the intensity of the overwhelm is directly related to how close I feel failure is. And so stopping myself saying it's okay to fail. Like, oh, number one, do I need to be doing all these things all at once? How can I put things in order, bring some structure back? Because control to me, structure is different than control. If I can bring structure back, you get more influence over the trajectory you're on. I tend to try and not ever lead myself to believing I have control over anything,
Right.
because I think that's a challenging place to be for me. It's a delusion, but again, do I need to be able to do everything? If there's all these things I need to be doing, how do I do them in order? And also, can I accept failure? And sometimes the answer is like, I'm here to do my best. And if I have to do all these things, I have to accept. If I'm going to juggle all these balls, this is my counselor. If you're going to juggle all those balls, you need to be also willing to accept you're going to drop a few. Okay. All right. So now I can let myself off the hook. And honestly, as soon as I like can embrace that, the overwhelm goes away. And more often than not, I end up dropping like no balls, maybe one,
Yeah.
but it's the one that I allow to drop and to
Right.
preserve.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. It's allowing yourself to feel the feeling that you're afraid of feeling that's causing the overwhelm because, oh, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
And then what do I need to learn? Because maybe it is I need to put down some of the balls. I just can't do all that. But oftentimes that's not even it because it's just the story in our head.
Story in the head. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So we've riffed all over the place for a while. What do you want to leave with it with our audience?
There's a million different ways to do things right and to identify what works for you and then blueprint that in your mind. Like, this is how I deal with things. So this is what how I deal with being overwhelmed. This is how I deal with when I'm being stubborn. I start here, I end here. I work through a process. I think to me, that's how I heard a lot of that in today's discussion.
But what I really appreciate about these conversations, because you caught yourself a couple of times and brought it back to the I statements. Well, my experience is this. So when you speak in what I would call inarguable truths, there's no room to get mad at me because I'm just telling you this has been my experience. I'm not telling you it's right. I'm just telling you this is what my experience has been.
Right.
And I'm curious, what's your experience been? So when you can have conversations that way, it opens up a lot of doors. And then the second piece I would love for folks to take away that you've touched on as well is experiment daily. So some of these things might work for you, some of them might not, but you don't know until you try. And I always joke with research, you talked about science, 99% of the research wasn't done on me. So I will have to do my own research. I'll try that thing and see how that works for me.
I just add to that, if you keep doing things the exact same way, you're probably going to get the exact same results.
Yeah.
So doing things different, fearlessly trying new shit, talking about new shit. I think that's how you find a different path or a different feeling or a different anything, a different outcome. Yeah, let's just give it a chance.
So if this one ever sees the light of day, then make sure you drop us a note. Let us know what resonated, what you do to connect with your fellow dude, how you show up, how you have those difficult conversations. I would love to know that. And any ideas for future conversations we should be having about this, we'd love to hear them.